So, hey everybody, it's Monday, April 27th. Tony here, and we've got some new friends in the group today. But Jen asked me how things are going in New York, and I told her a little bit about that. But yeah, I'm curious, maybe if we go around the horn, tell me a little bit about what's going on. What's life like in your world? How are you getting groceries? And Jen, I'll start with you. Like, how's that working for you right now?
Um, I lean more heavily into Imperfect Box because their delivery has been pretty reliable. We also get HelloFresh meals. We get 3 or 4 of those a week, so that helps. But it's like, right now I'm out of yogurt, and I really really want some yogurt, and I don't want to have to go to the store for yogurt. Um, and I think I've just been like making do. And I keep channeling my inner like Laura Ingalls Wilder, like Little House on the Prairie. It's like they couldn't get yogurt every time they wanted it. Like, and if they wanted something, Pa had to drive 3 days to Mankato. So I'm trying to lean into that a little bit. And we're all right.
Fair. And business-wise, how's the virtual membership coming along?
It's going really well. We just had a very nice work sprint this morning with 6 people. Tomorrow night we have one of our favorite events. We've moved into the virtual world. It's called Pass the Pineapple. It's a networking event. So we'll see how the turnout for that goes. One thing I would like to discuss with the group at some point during the call is we got PPP money.
Yay!
So, but now I'm in this weird place where, well, number one, I have to figure out how to spend it intelligently and just like read through all the documentation and kind of redo my P&L. But secondly, we're in this weird position of, we asked our members for their money and we sent them, the doom and gloom email of, please help us so we don't have to close. And we don't necessarily have so much PPP money that we can just like ride it out on that. Like we still need their support. But our email that was supposed to be sent to them last night, our weekly email, it was like, May 1 is coming up. If you haven't talked to us about billing arrangements, please do so right away. If you're in a financial hardship inspiration, we are so appreciative of your support. Please continue to support us. By the way, the government gave us money.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a juxtaposition. So I'm trying to figure out some good messaging around that.
Yeah, that is a very interesting dilemma because on the one hand, it's like, yay, you got money. And now on the other hand, you think, well, wait a minute, am I just going to turn around and hand this right to my customers?
Right.
And, yeah. Wow. That is, I think Ned Flanders would say it's a dilly of a pickle. All right. So let's dive into that as a big part of our conversation today. First of all, maybe just a little bit more about how the process worked for you and any, reflections you have for others. And then we can talk about how to address that delicious dilemma. Thanks, Jen. Let's turn it over to Meredith and then Dana. Meredith, how are you getting your groceries and how are you doing? Welcome.
I'm doing okay. I mean, the online orders are about a week out, so I have tried to figure out some of those. So the first time I did it, I was like, okay, well, that's next week. So then we'll figure out this week's, so we've been, I've just been trying to be smart about it. And today I was crafting my grocery list and figuring out a good time to brave it. Mornings seem to be pretty decent. So I'll probably do that tomorrow morning. Things are more or less fine here. I mean, besides just everybody kind of being very isolated. Friday, the weather was nice for a change. And so took a nice walk around my neighborhood, and my neighborhood's actually done a lot of things to help kind of bring everybody together, which has been a nice, like, silver lining to it. Like, you're actually getting to know your neighbors through, like, from their porches and saying hello, and, they're doing, community fundraisers for someone was going to run a marathon, but all the marathons got canceled. So he did one in the neighborhood and raised money for like COVID relief, which I thought was really cool. And, people would stand on their porch and like cheer him on as he like ran by. And, so it's like, it's nice to see the community like finding new intuitive ways to like like connect.
Wow, that's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
what is it about your
yeah.
community that's making it so cohesive?
Where are you again?
Lexington, Kentucky, and I live in a neighborhood. It's kind of an older, like single family home neighborhood, close to downtown, but enough to where it's still quiet. We're a mix of like, generations that have lived here and then young families and young professionals. Most of it's been organized through just like the neighborhood Facebook group, which, can get a little, like soap opera-y, like the drama that just usually happens through those kinds of things. But for the most part, like it's actually turned into a really nice communication tool for like organizing these kinds of things. Like they've coordinated kids like drawing on the sidewalk. So like on Saturday mornings they do that, and then go on a walk Saturday afternoon and see all the new artwork and, just kind of creative things like that. They've done like porch parties where they say like 3 p.m. on Saturday, like everybody come out on the porch and you can kind of just like yell to your neighbors, and so it's been actually really nice, and hopefully this will continue.
These are
after,
great ideas.
after the fact. Yeah, it's nice to see like people really coming together. Neighbors offering to pick up groceries for somebody else, or if someone's struggling, saying like, "Hey, we'll bring you food," and so it's bringing out the very positive parts of community, which has been nice.
Great.
Yeah.
And how are things going co-working wise?
Co-working. So we kicked off our own virtual co-working membership this week. Thanks again, Jen, for that brilliant idea. And I'm using it really as a segue to help like just beef up some of the areas that we haven't been strong in, which would be, like member only events, which we've talked about, as well as just better ways of connecting with our members. So we never had a member newsletter before. So this is just a really easy way to roll that into the initiative of having this new programming to kind of share, but it also helps just get some, these new things into the mix without it seeming like kind of random. It feels a bit more natural, like, hey, we're doing these things and this is a new way for us to communicate with you, which also was something I realized during all of this. Like, we didn't have good ways to communicate with our members, so we have co-working and office space, and we didn't have a really good tool for connecting with the members. Our current, management software not really have any of those built-in tools. So we're working on switching software, which will help with that. But, we just needed ways to communicate instead of me exporting all of our member emails and then like dropping them into a Gmail and then sending it out. So I've been working to try and have this be more branded and cohesive and actually have a database that we can utilize. So it's a win, I think, taking stuff that we hadn't done and slowly making progress there.
Wow. Well, I feel like now's the time. Those kinds of things can be so painful and thorny to get through operationally, but if you're ever going to do it, now's the time to do it when you're not dealing with all the other space stuff. So glad that you're focusing on it. And if we have time, maybe we can get into the specifics of kind of the ops flow for, where you're going with it and how we can optimize that. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah. And I actually like to piggyback on Jen's topic about the messaging and communicating, because like as things we're talking about reopening and like, that type of language, I'd be curious to hear everybody's thoughts on that process that you're working through of seeing like, based off of your state, what are you being allowed to start to try and do, and how are you going to communicate that to your members?
Cool. Yeah, that's also a good point. I guess that's going to change a lot over the coming weeks, as well as different states start to come online. Okay, cool. Thanks, Meredith.
Thanks.
Let's go to Dana, and then we'll go to whoever is not on camera yet. But Dana, how are things where you are?
Things are good here. I'm in Rochester, New York, so we're, shut down, of course, like everybody else. But we're getting by. We're not starving yet. We're making a few trips to the grocery store when needed, and I'm actually 9 months pregnant, so I'm really not leaving the house at all right now. So it should make for an interesting few weeks for us, so, but we'll get by. But we actually have tried to do the whole grocery delivery thing, and we can't even get a time slot. Like, there isn't even one a week or two out to pick from. So it's interesting to hear that you guys have been able to at least schedule stuff, which I thought was bizarre that you can't even book out for the future. But we're surviving, we're getting by. So overall, we're doing good.
Wow. And what's your, I mean, what's your game plan as far as the next few weeks are concerned? This has to be such an intense time for you.
It is very intense. Yeah, we've got 2 kids here that we're homeschooling right now, and you know, we're working from home. My husband's still working full time, and it's just, it's been chaos, but we'll figure it out. We're kind of ready to hit the brakes when we need to for a week or so, if, you know, and then get back into the swing of things slowly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like the kids are going to be back to school, not here in New York, this, you know, for the rest of the year. I don't know, Jen, where are you from?
Illinois, Chicago area. And no, school is out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, they keep saying, you know, oh, well, May 18th is kind of the earliest at this point in New York, but in reality, that's not going to happen either. So
How old are your kids?
8 and 10. So we've got 2nd grade and 5th.
I have a 1st grader. Yeah.
Yeah. The 5th grader, it's been a little easier for him than the 2nd grader. So yeah, it's been an adjustment for everybody for sure. So other than that, we're doing okay, and we're just gonna make things work in the next few weeks when this new baby arrives. So
Wait, new baby?
yeah, I'm actually 9 months pregnant.
Oh, geez. I mean, congrats, but wow.
Yeah, you know.
Holy moly.
Things a little more interesting. So, you know, and family's ready to help, but of course, you know, they're leaving food on the doorstep for us on the weekends, which has been nice, you know. So,
Do you think your
that,
5th grader is going to help with the baby? Going to be able to help?
yeah, I think both of them, they're both really excited and ready to help out. So it'll be neat for them, I think. But they're ready, like they're ready now, you know, which is nice. And it's nice that they're a little bit older, so I wouldn't have to worry too much, you know. If they're hungry, they'll get something to eat, you know, whatever. So it should be good. So as far as business, I know Meredith and Jen, you were on last week. I don't have a place yet. I'm still in the early stages, and Tony and I did our one-on-one call after that last week, which was awesome. So what I have spent time doing the last few days is creating like an online community, because I feel like right now my focus just needs to be about gathering people and expanding my circle. So I created a private Facebook group, and I think in 48 hours we're maybe up to like 30 people, but I've only been inviting a few at a time and talking to them about what I'm trying to do. But we have a few events planned already, virtual events. So tomorrow we're doing, you know, a coffee connection, just networking, and then we have a work sprint that's planned. And what's the other one? We have a mastermind that's planned. So like one thing each week. I've been sticking on the calendar, and obviously with what's coming for me, I don't want to overbook myself, you know, and then all of a sudden not be present in some of these online events that we have going on. So I've gotten good feedback. Like, people are excited. They're chatting in the group. They're exchanging information. So I'm really excited at just how people have been participating at this point. It's just, like I said, a couple days old. So that is something I've been focusing on. And then also just putting together that list of who's in my circle that I know that eventually when the time is right, I'm going to want to go to and share with them what I'm doing, you know? So just kind of getting all my ducks in a row so that once all this social distancing lifts and we're back out in our community, I'm ready to go. So if anybody has any advice, I think what I need right now is tomorrow morning we have our little coffee connection, and I think 3 or 4 people have responded yes that they're definitely going to be there. I'm worried about like keeping the conversation going. Like, is there any tricks that you guys have, or things that you've done during these online events to, other than, go around and introduce yourself? This one I wanted to be kind of a get to know one another a little bit better type of event. So if anybody has any feedback on that, if you can share or send me an email, let me know.
What type of event is it? Sorry?
Just like a morning, grab a cup of coffee, meet us on Zoom, get to know each other a little better, networking type of event.
I really like combining that with a work sprint.
Yeah.
For that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
always
that's a
nice
good
if you
idea.
can link like what's going on in people's lives to what's next, and what's either like what's challenging maybe that
Mhm.
you that people could kind of support each other in, or
Yeah.
like what are you feeling resistance to that's important that we could all work together on so that we can make some progress towards some of these things.
Okay.
So, and that leads to the work sprint. So, if you've got a room full of people that are all talking, you can steer that to like, well, so what does your week look like? What would be a big win for you this week? What's something you're not sure you're going to get done, but if you did get it done, it would make all the difference in the world. So it starts to get a little bit more personal and a little bit more like meaningful. And then if people, share that, then if you follow that up with, well, we're going to do a work sprint after this. Let's all resolve to work on these things and block out time to do it together. Then we can help each other overcome the resistance or the whatever is holding us back together.
Mhm.
And then what's really powerful about that is that then people start seeing your group as not just a nice social thing, but as a vehicle for their business growth, which is really what we
Okay.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been just kind of jotting down questions over the last few days of just ways to keep the conversation flowing, like asking what challenges they're faced with, even personal or in business, just so we kind of get a glimpse of what's happening in everybody's life and what areas they need some help in. So I like the idea of following it up with a work sprint, especially if we are just a small group. We've blocked off an hour for it, and if there's just a handful of us, why not spend the last 20-30 minutes hammering out something that everyone's trying to get done. So
Exactly.
cool.
And then that can
Well, I
lead
like
to
it.
longer conversations and deeper dives or longer work sprint things later, that kind of thing.
Yeah, awesome. Cool, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So I know we've got some folks who are not on camera. I see an S. Omar. Are you with us? Do you want to just unmute and say hello, introduce yourself? And then Taylor, we've also got you on deck.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Welcome.
So I'm actually, yeah, thanks. I'm actually buzzing in from West Africa.
Wow.
So, yeah, Gambia. So it's totally different situation, that we have here than what I'm hearing with you guys over there. I can go to the store anytime I want to and buy stuff. And then with social distancing, that's a bit of an issue. So I tend to stay indoors because most of the people, there are lots of people out there that are not observing that. So, but yeah, the space is kind of open, but not fully operational. So most of the staff, we work, from home. We only have security and maintenance that are available, and the housekeeping. So anybody else who wants to use the space, they go at their own risk. So they can go maybe and work for a few hours or take care of something quick. But they have fingerprint access, so they can always go, and we can keep a log of who goes. But it's not been that many. It's probably been 1 or 2, and we have 3 spaces. So it's it's pretty spread out. I mean, they can have a whole floor to themselves if they need to get work done. But yeah, other than that, we've just been at home working. The good thing is with ours, we have our main sponsor is an IT and cloud services company, so we get to also help out with that company's workflow. So it kind of keeps everybody busy. And for the workspace, we're trying to actually find out ways. I was on another seminar about virtual, packages and virtual, ways of getting in touch with members and stuff. So we're trying to see if we can implement some of that as well. But not really hoping for too much interaction because it's going to be tough in the beginning. We probably won't have that much interaction with the members, but we're trying to see what we can do, and also prepare programming for when this goes out, because I think very soon we'll be back to normal. Things are starting to look good. I mean, over here we had 10 cases, and then like majority recovered. There was only one death, which was some old guy from Bangladesh or something who was visiting here, but he had diabetes, and he had that diabetes shock, and I think that plus corona got him. And they only found the corona after he passed away.
Can you maybe just rewind for the rest of the group, since it's since most folks don't know your situation, but tell us, like, what's your space about? How big is it? How long has it been around? How did you get into this world?
So we have what is called a disruptive lab. It's in Gambia. It's actually an initiative. So what happened is my brother-in-law actually came up with the idea. So him and my sister, they were based in North Carolina. And so, he had an IT company there, and then they just decided, look, we want to help out in Gambia, West Africa, because he has roots there, even though he grew up in Atlanta, but he was just like, we need to do something there. So, they came out here, and first of all, started with a branch for his IT company, but then later on, they had a big building that they rented out. So the space is there's 3 spaces in one, but one of the spaces is specifically just for women, because my sister said, no, we need a space just for women, because she's all about women empowerment and stuff. So she calls it the woman boss. And so that space is a woman co-working space, but the women get to access the men's area, but the men don't get to access the women's area. So, but anyway, I get to go with both, just to see what's going on. But they don't like it. Sometimes she's like, what is a man doing in here? I'm like, look, I'm here to make sure things are in order. So basically, I run the operations for both the spaces. Currently, our biggest clients are the UN programs, because UN has a bunch of programs here, for accelerating technology, for accelerating entrepreneurship, because I know currently a lot of the countries in Europe are trying to get most of the illegal migrants back to Africa. So that means that there's a lot of people that have come back and need work and need to do something. Otherwise, it's going to be a chaos. So so basically, that's how the idea that those are. That's our main client with the UN and the IOM, the Institute of International. Like, I guess, let me see, what's the IOM again? I forgot, but it's migration. It's a UN. It's the UN branch that deals with migration. So it's the International Organization of Migration, but it's another UN chapter anyway. Wow. So yeah, that's also another client. And then some other local entrepreneurs that come in and use the space. but yeah, so that's the space that we are running currently. How big is it? Um, I would say it could probably hold about maybe 150 people,
Awesome.
maybe. So it's not too big, but it's not too small either. So it's a decent size.
Yeah, well, for the size of your city as well, I imagine that's a pretty sizable space in town. But thank you for your introduction. I'm glad that you're joining for the call today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
All right. All right. I want to, and I'll say as well, if there's a particular question or something that you want to try to focus on this week, I'd love to make time for us to discuss it either now or after the call. So, is there anything particularly pressing for you that you want to share with us today?
So well, basically, I joined the call with no expectations because
Okay.
actually, I got signed up by the owner of the space, my boss. So yeah, he's like, yeah, you since you're running this space, you need to start, to join this community of practice. It could probably, provide some insights because he saw that I was joining other stuff, but he's like, I've been paying for this and I don't have time for this. So I need you to just, because yeah, he actually signed himself up initially thinking, yeah, since I'm the owner of the space, and he found out, well, he doesn't have time for that. So yeah, since I'm running the space, sort of here maybe to see what, any tips, any things that I could do in the space to, get it more lively because yeah, one of the challenges that I've had is so far is in programming, that's one of the challenges that we've currently experienced. The programming bit, it's been a bit of a nightmare. Sometimes you arrange or organize stuff, and then the turnout is not that great. So
Well, I will
so it
say,
becomes like a hassle.
I think you're
Yeah.
definitely going to get some great guidance as you tune into these meetings, and they're the same week, same time every week on Monday, and the folks on here have some just amazing things that they have done. So I think it is a good move on your boss's part and on your part to be here. So I'm glad that you're here, and yeah, I'm excited to have you tune in and learn a little bit from the folks who are here. And I'm sure we have a lot to learn from you as well. So welcome.
Thank
And
you.
I'll just
All right. Glad.
just want to make sure we've got a chance for Taylor to introduce herself as well, if she is not covered, soaked in coffee still. How's it going on
Sorry
there,
if I
Taylor?
was.
Why don't you just introduce yourself? Tell us where you are, your life story, your favorite movie, etc.
Hi, everyone. Some of y'all know me. I'm Taylor. I'm the community manager for Epicenter's co-working space in Memphis, Tennessee. We have an 8,500 square foot space with about 120, well, it was 120 members. I don't know what it is now. And I'm in the middle of cleaning my new couch that I got that I spilled coffee on. So sorry. So right now the quarantine is actually lifted in Tennessee as of this upcoming Friday, which I have feelings about, but we collectively decided not to reopen our space. We're going to wait until at least the end of May. But we are getting requests from other organizations for just guidance on how to reopen spaces. And so we are having to assess our space and decide what that's going to look like to reopen in possibly June, or we'll see. But then we also are trying to compile a list of recommendations for other spaces in the city. So I've been following along in the Women Who Co-work Facebook group because some people are putting together some resources, but that's really what I'd like to talk about is what does reopening look like? Because we completely closed our place down, and so it's just kind of been there. We haven't done much with it. but yeah, when we reopen, we want to do it the right way. So that's really what we're doing now. Thanks.
Taylor, did you see that link that was shared among in Women Who Co? It was like a safe work playbook. I just dropped it into the chat.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but thanks. I'll check that out as we're done here.
There was I'll also try to find this one now. It's done by Cushman Wakefield, and it's like, you know, their audience is the 80s floor skyscraper downtown. So some of their practices and ideas are not doable for people of our scale, but yeah, there might be a few good nuggets in there that you can use. I'll look for that as well.
I've been seeing some things on like software to monitor the number of people coming in and all of that, and our space is so informal. We keep our door locked all the time, but people have Keezy to just come in and out, and guests just call people to meet them at the door. So I'm just wondering, like, what is this going to look like? And also, are people even going to come back right away?
Yeah.
I mean, that also played into why we're not opening up starting next week, is because we already have requests for memberships to be paused in May, because people, even though the state's reopening, people aren't ready to come back out. So kind of weighing when is it worth to reopen?
See, that makes me angry that as business owners or business operators, we have to make those decisions. Like, I feel like people smarter than us should be making those decisions.
We're the smart ones now.
Yeah, really. It's like the kids are in charge. I hope it goes well. I hope Tennessee doesn't see a spike.
I think Georgia is already seeing a spike, so I expect us to see one. And then what I've been hearing from some people who are following is we'll probably have a spike, and then in a few weeks another quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm like, I don't even want to contribute to anything. I don't want to put anyone at risk. We've gone this long in quarantine. We could go another month. And the thing is, everyone's kind of adjusting now. So we're okay. We're not, we're definitely going to keep it closed, but we do want to make sure that when we reopen, we're not scrambling at the last minute and don't have a response to people.
Yeah.
One interesting thing that came from the Cushman Wakefield video, which again, when you watch it, you'll laugh, but they did say something about like paths through the space. And I thought there was something to that, you know, like, for instance, we have 2 staircases, and I was like, maybe one of them becomes the up staircase, the other one becomes the down staircase, and just like, this is the path you have to take now to avoid people crashing into each other. And I don't know.
Yeah, thanks.
So it sounds like there's a really scary dynamic at play here, because there are like strong feelings that are coming up and differing opinions about how to approach this situation. And so this whole notion of even when to reopen and when to, you know, start getting back into the same place together, people are starting to get pretty, you know, serious about their opinions about it, and it can be rough. And, you know, in a co-working environment, you know, everybody does it differently. I've always tried to maintain, you know, a relatively agnostic position on anything that could be too controversial, while still maintaining some sense of, you know, that we represent a set of core values and, you know, some general system that we all buy into, recognizing that, you know, we can't have something that's totally for everybody, that everyone's always going to have some opinion on something. And so, you know, if I'm in this position, I'm thinking, I want to avoid getting in the middle of it where I'm going to piss off some significant portion of my membership by taking a really strong position one way or another, unless I have to. And if I feel like I have to, then I will. But even then, I want to try to do so in a way that feels compassionate and transparent, especially considering that, you know, we're all in various degrees of not knowing what the hell to do. And so what I'm wondering is, you know, how we approach this. And I think, there's probably multiple levels of kind of how we do this, from kind of like low level tactical, like how do we keep the space as clean and sanitation as possible, right? And then there's kind of the next level of, are there kind of value systems that we can develop together that that are really just extensions of the way that we would do, you know, things under different circumstances, which is to say that like these are our values, this is how we're going to approach this process of figuring out how to do this, and be transparent about communicating that. And then I guess at the highest level, it's just philosophically, what does the leadership believe is the right move to make? Is it that you're going to follow the orders of the government and follow their lead? Is it that you're going to take a position that's yours, and that it might be in opposition to what the government says, but that's how we're going to do it? You know, and that's like a leadership decision to make. So if leadership, you know, as you've said, like leadership decided, okay, technically we could open by this day, but we don't feel like we're comfortable doing so for at least another few weeks out, then that's, you know, that's like it's a leadership decision to make that, to make that call. But I would say that regardless of, you know, all of this, there's probably some basic dynamics around communicating what's going on, inviting conversation in a way that makes people feel like they're involved in the process and that their voice is being heard and that they're included, while also still retaining a sense of authority and leadership over the situation. Because what we obviously don't want is for this to turn into a flame war where people start, you know, yelling at each other about politics and whatever. But we do want people to feel like, even if the decision you make is not in alignment with their own opinion on the situation, that you're doing so in a way that is informed by everybody's feelings about it. And so that's probably the high level thing that's the best thing to think about, is how to involve people in this process. You know, and I would say it sounds like we're probably all like everybody's going to reopen in some way eventually, and there's going to be this, you know, like closed to totally open, everything normal, and that it might be years between those two, we don't know, but in between there's going to be all these different gradations. And even just to start to sketch what those buckets could look like, and then what would be the criteria for those buckets, would be a really good start. The same way that the states and the governments are starting to do this for phases of reopening, I think you could start to sketch phases of reopening for your own space, to say that, okay, you know, within certain circumstances, we'll let certain people in for certain amounts of time. Maybe it's a limited number of people, blah, 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 right? And then over time, you start to relax those things. It could be that you tie it to a certain number. So you could say, the same way that New York State is only going to start phase 1 after 14 straight days of declining cases. And so then you basically say, like, this is our assessment of the situation, is that when this criteria happens, we will feel safe to proceed. And then it kind of takes the load off of you, because whether somebody agrees with the criteria or not, you're setting some kind of criteria, and you're saying, well, I don't control the numbers. So when the numbers go down, then we'll talk. When the numbers go back up, we got to shut it back down. That's just the way it is, you know. And if you want to say 14 days or 21 days or 8 days, everyone's going to have a different opinion. But I think we should all agree we should have a system that is based in some kind of rational thing. And ideally, you can base it on an existing heuristic or metric. And, you know, like ideally it's the government that you line up with on this, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's another organization that has another set of guidelines, and you say, hey, we're not going to align with the state, but we are going to align with the WHO's guidelines or CDC's guidelines, whatever it is. And then I think that maybe, you know, lightens the load on you a little bit. But then, you know, then we could, you know, just kind of communicate about the sketching of those different buckets. I see that you mentioned, Taylor, you're going to put together a survey. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so the idea came after there's a spa/massage place right down the street from us, and I'm on their newsletter. And so what they did a few weeks ago was they sent out a newsletter like, hey, we're thinking of reopening. What would it take to get you back into the space and feel comfortable? So they listed out a bunch of things like Does the staff have to wear face masks and gloves when they're meeting you? Do they have to have it on when they're like giving you your massage? Do you need sanitizing stations? Do you need like only one person in the waiting room? All those different options. And it was basically just go through and like click what, you know, you would want. And I think that model can be copied. Because I also don't want to make a decision. Like I don't know what people are comfortable with, and I'd rather it be based on what the members tell me. So if they're, you know, okay with whatever, like maybe in the beginning it's like we open but we don't allow guests, or member guests can come but we're not going to rent out our meeting rooms, or whatever that looks like. I'd like the members to have some say in it. So I wanted to put that together this week and get that sent out.
That's great. That's a great example of just like involving people in the process and gathering information. Because it might be, how many members do you have, Taylor?
About 120.
About 120. Like it might be that, you know, that people are relatively on the same page about this, or that the number of people who are way off in one direction or the other is relatively small. And then the other great thing about that is that then you know exactly who you need to talk to about what. And I think that removing the uncertainty and the unclarity around this really, really helps, because I could be, I imagine, freaking out about sending an email about my co-working spaces policy on this, worried that people were going to be freaking out back at me, when in reality, there were only a handful of people that are going to have any trouble with this, and I probably can just talk to them one-on-one like an adult and reason this out with them, right?
Yeah.
So that's great. I love it. I would love to see the survey when you send it out. I won't
Yeah.
take it though.
I need to get it out on Wednesday. Feel free. I'll send it to y'all. Feel free to use it however you want.
That'd be great. Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah.
Can I say something, Tony?
Yeah. Hey, Penny, I see you're calling in. Welcome, Penny.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, one thing I was going to say about that to her is that I have been asking my members for input, and we're opening today so people can start to have clients in today, but only in situations they feel are very important. We don't want to have all our clients back in all the time, but when I do ask those questions, I always say, I value your input because I don't want to give away my power. I don't want them to think that they're making the decision, and you've guided me on this, Tony, but I always say, I really value your input just so I'm not giving away my power to decide.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. I'd almost love it if we could play with, you know, maybe some kind of shared materials around like what we think those different phases could be and the different criteria could be, because I feel like we're all going to be dealing with this in some form or another. And I'd be curious to see like all the different details that everybody would want to throw in there. Like, just for example, I know one of the easiest things that I'm seeing stores do here in New York is just nobody's let in unless they got a mask on. You know, and I don't know that that's practical for a co-working space in the same way, but you know, there's certain like criteria that you can set that are pretty straightforward to you know, to ask for. So yeah, maybe I'll just fire up like a doc that we can start compiling stuff in.
Yeah, I'd love that.
It's like if you're sitting and working, you don't need to wear a mask, but as soon as you get up and start moving around, you need to wear a mask or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's like all different things we could try, right? I'm
curious.
Yeah.
Are all your states coming together? Like Kentucky's starting to announce like the process in order to reopen, and we're doing it in stages. Are other states doing that as well?
Illinois is just closed.
Okay.
Nashville is putting something together, or they have put something together like that, and I put it on my list to read today to kind of help me inform. But Nashville is also driven by the state, so they're kind of being forced to reopen, whereas we kind of have more flexibility to kind of be more cautious.
I think a lot's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. I think we'll see how these southern states that are opening, I think we'll see how they do. And, you know, if everyone down there is safe and it seems like things are going okay, then maybe the northern states will reopen. But if not, then summer's getting canceled.
Yeah. I like the idea, Tony, that you said of kind of coming up with like buckets for these phases that you could then, because my big fear is like, okay, we'll reopen and then like we're gonna have to go back, like re-quarantine. And it's, you know, like we've talked about like, oh, restaurants can do like 50%. And I'm like, I feel like that's gonna do way more damage to businesses than just waiting another month. And so my fear is, hey, we're gonna communicate all this stuff to our members and then be like, oop, just kidding, guys, like the numbers spiked again. So I like your idea of at least having these like buckets with like this like quantitative like measuring that we can say like, we're in this phase, this is what we're doing, but if things change, this is what we're going to have to do, and just have it kind of set so people have, at least they have their expectations, you know?
You know what it's like? It's like the threat levels at the airport.
Yep.
Red, orange, yellow, green.
Yep.
True.
I totally see that.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest complaints I've heard, I've kind of put feelers out for like the other spaces in Lexington, and just kind of hearing how other places have managed it. One of the biggest complaints was feeling like leaving the members in the dark, that things were just not communicated to them well. So, I mean, I feel like having some kind of plan and then communicating that, and then just being very transparent about like, this is an uncertain time. We're doing the best that we can. This is what we've established. And then also getting their feedback, making them be a part of the solution, or at least part of the conversation, is important as well.
I love it. I love it. All right. So I'm trying to really quickly whip up a document. Won't be able to like truly get it done on this call, but I'll at least get it started and I'll share it with y'all. Yeah. I think this is, and you know, this will probably help the wider co-working movement as well, if we're able to just create some shared resources to discuss amongst us, and maybe even produce some materials. So like if we could have like pretty signage, you know, with the color, with like the DHS color status, and we're all able to make that, you know, maybe higher production value together, then we all get to benefit from it. And there's also the sense of, hey, we're not the only ones doing this. There's other people working on this too. So I like that direction. All right, I'm just gonna, this is an absolute placeholder document, but we'll, I'll start populating it with some stuff, and we'll go from there.
So I'll just share what we decided at Thrive Therapy Space, and that is that in the state of Pennsylvania, when you go into any of the establishments that are open, about a week ago, they decided that you have to wear a mask. So if you go into a grocery store or into a doctor's office or into a therapy space, you have to wear a mask. And so then I've asked my members, obviously, to wear a mask, but I have said that, you know, we're a therapy. So what members do behind closed door with their clients, it's going to be up to them, or if they have their door closed and they want to have their mask off. I haven't made it too explicit, but therapists, we never check behind closed doors. But then I just have been in Ohio, and it does feel really different. Like I'm getting used to just 1 week of having the masks on out in public, and it feels actually quite respectful. Like people really are trying to keep their own, you know, spittle off of everybody else. And in Ohio, nobody's doing that. And so it feels like in Ohio, they're just not being careful in a helpful kind of careful way, not a paranoid careful way. It feels like in Pennsylvania, we're being careful in a good way. Anyway, that's what we're doing in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's a very tricky situation, and Penny, you're getting a taste of it because of the, you know, like being able to see what maybe things are like in a different state, not too far away. And I know, you know, in New York State, they're making kind of multi-state coordination efforts because, you know, if one state opens up in a way that another state doesn't, people are going to go to that state, and then, you know, there's going to be all kinds of issues there. So I guess you get to benefit from seeing how different people are responding, so that you can get a sense of what different approaches will look like. But it's a tricky situation.
Yeah, actually, I think Kentucky and Illinois are grouped together. I think we're with Indiana, Illinois, maybe Michigan, kind of like a Midwest one. That's a lot of kind of process and procedure have been banding together. So Jen, we may be able to sync up on that at least.
So I know we're at kind of the end of the hour here. Are there any other, I know there were other topics that came up, but is there anything anybody wants to just spend a few minutes on before we call it?
If we have some time to talk about my my messaging,
Oh, yes.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and I would love to hear more, Jen, about how you got through the PPP program. But do you want to just tell us real quick anything on that, and then let's talk about messaging?
Yeah, so I worked through my local bank, which is, so it's called Wintrust Bank, and I think they're based just really in the Chicago area. They're a really strong community bank. You know, they're very involved in their individual communities. So I've gotten to know our bank president really well, and I really believe that having that relationship helped me with this. And they were just great. I mean, they were sending updates every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. And they're like, you know, this is a shit show. We're doing our best. And, you know, we think the portal's going to reopen and maybe it's not and all of that. And I honestly can't believe I got it because, you know, I tried to get a loan from them, an SBA loan when I opened, and he turned me down. But yeah, I was able to get it through them. I had all my stuff ready to go, and I was super fast to respond to all the emails. So that was my experience, you know. And I know that people tried really hard with the bigger banks and probably even some small banks, and they just didn't get it. So I almost feel like it was just luck of the draw. Like, I don't know that I necessarily did anything better than anybody else, you know. Right. I mean, just the whole thing was just crazy. I'm really glad that all those publicly traded companies that got this money are being forced to give it back, because that was effed up. Yeah. That was not right.
So Jenna, I'll talk real quick about the messaging to the members, and I would love to get the other thoughts from the other members of the group on this, but just some thoughts that come to mind. One is that perhaps you can, so I think high level, there's like maybe 3 ways that you can approach this. One is like, don't tell them, or like minimize the exposure there. The other end is like proactively give away, you know, membership, like money to everybody or whatever. And then probably where you're going to end up is somewhere in between. And I don't know what the appetite is amongst your members or where everybody's at financially or all of their situations. But I imagine that you are going to want to, you know, anticipate that there will be some pushback. We do have the first of the month coming, all of that happening. So a couple of quick thoughts on how to do it. Number one, if you can confide in a few super members to tell them your dilemma and maybe float to them your plan to get their feedback on it, that might be a good start. And then, you know, that way, the other thing that's so important is there's so much politics in these things. If you put a message out to your group, the way that they respond is hard to predict, but the more that you can architect it, the better you will feel about pushing the button. So if you know, like, I've had this happen once or twice where I had to like say something that was tricky to a community of people that could riot against me. But if I warmed up a portion of that population that I could trust, then when I sent the email, I knew that there was going to be some people in that room who were in a position of trust and authority within the community, who are not, you know, on your payroll, but who are, you know, more, you know, considered somewhat more objective, who are going to be somewhat of a voice of reason. And so I knew that, like, if I posted to the group, and then 5 or 10 of the people that I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Jen. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I didn't know if you were like, I didn't know if something I was saying, you were like, no, Tony, you're full of it. You know, then like if the first few people that respond are the ones warmed up, and they're like, you know, like, thanks for this, Jen. We're here to support you all the way, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, you're brigading it a little bit, but it softens the blow. Then that helps. And then I'm just going to rant really quick because we're short on time. And then the other thing is maybe you can proactively offer something up to just lighten the load for everybody. And there's two quick ideas that come to mind. Is one, offering everybody a credit back on a portion of their membership for the month, so everybody gets something. And if everybody's getting something, then that's better than them getting nothing, and that maybe will shut most people up. And then the other
Yeah,
thing,
we are offering a credit.
right. And then the other thing is maybe even offering some kind of a program to say basically, hey, we've done the math, we've got some, money coming to us. It's going to help keep us in business a little longer. We want to be able to pass that along to you. And so everybody gets a credit. But if there are people in this group who are in a particularly difficult position, we've got X number of spots available for greater credit. And if you would like to apply, then, let me know. And so then you could basically say, and I'm not being clear on what that offer is, not to say that I'm just going to give you your money back. Maybe there's some way you can earn your credit or, something like that. But even to proactively say like, hey, we have money, we can afford to, credit back a few more people, but it's this many and it's not this many, so that you can kind of like manage the thinking around it, because everybody already knows that you need this money too to not go out of business, but they don't know your books. And so if you can tell them, hey, I looked at my books and we can all agree we don't want me to go out of business. So if I want to stay in business, I still need this much, but I can still give you this much. And I want to give you this much because I want to help you, and try to like spin it that way. Does that help at all?
I'll have to think about it, maybe.
Okay. I know we're at the end of the hour, but do you want to just take it one step further? Any like last second kind of thoughts on it?
Let's see. So we, in all of our messaging, we say stuff like, Jessica and I continue to work on an appropriate thank you. It will probably come in the form of credits, plus a few additional bits of surprise and delight. But the exact structure will largely depend on when we're allowed to reopen. So we've kept it really vague. As we approach our May 1st membership renewals, if you're facing financial difficulty, need to make changes, please reach out. And then down at the bottom, we say, the email was about victories. And then at the bottom, we say, another recent victory is Day House received the PPP loan. I'm happy to talk about my experiences should you need to apply for small business loans as well. So we're definitely downplaying it, and we're definitely being vague about how we want to reward people for sticking with us. We probably need to amplify that messaging a little bit and just say, just because we got the PPP loan doesn't mean that we're out of the woods.
Yeah.
Honey, did you wash your hands? Mm-hmm. Did you really?
Yes. No.
Okay.
I do like the idea of maybe offering some kind of sweetener for, hey, everybody who stays a member, not to say that you're trying to like keep people from quitting, but as a way of saying thank you to our faithful members. On this day, we'll be doing this thing for, for all of you. So yeah, I don't know what that thing is, but I'm sure there's ways you can, even if it would be cool to throw like a really special party on the internet, like different from everything else, hire the llama or the goat to meeting.
Yeah. Well, Remy, I like your idea about sending them something. I still don't know what that thing is, but it'd be great if we could send them something.
Yeah. I would love to come up with some good, like brainstorm some ideas on this, but maybe we'll do that off list. Yeah. And maybe we could talk about it more next week. Jen, if you want, pass around whatever you're sending or what you're thinking of sending. I'd love to look at it.
Okay.
I should also mention I'm doing my workshop again tomorrow it's tomorrow and next week, but I've pre-recorded my lectures, so you can watch them whenever you want. And as members of New Work Cities, y'all get access to all of it. So if anybody wants any of that, let me know. Just shoot me an email and I'll send you access. Yeah, and I'm doing a screen-free social gathering on Wednesday called Zoom Out, which I will pass along details about as well. So, cool program notes. All right, everybody feeling good? We feel like we're ready to tackle another crazy week? All right. Dana, best of luck as you
Thank you.
final stages. Yeah. Stay healthy.
Yeah. If you don't see me or hear from me, you will eventually.
When's the baby due?
May 24th.
Okay.
So we got 4 weeks.
4 weeks to go. All right.
Weeks to go.
Very
Yeah.
good. All right. Well, hopefully we'll see you
Thank
next
you.
week. Everybody stay healthy, stay safe, stay sane.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tony.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you all.
All right. Thanks, SMR. Be well.